Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. It's been a few days, and everyone at this point knows what's the tragedy that took place, and it's been rough trying to collect my thoughts, uh, taking time to remember Kobe, to remember our memories of his daughter, to pay our respects to all of the victims, a part of the crash, and just the sheer devastation and sadness that this has beset upon us as sports fans, as Laker fans, as NBA fans, as fans of basketball, as fans of people that are creative and talented as hell, as fans of people who this is what good looks like as a father. This is what good looks like as a businessman. Ambition, Mamba mentality. We've been hearing so many personal anecdotes from so many different folks across the sports and media landscape, as well as passionate Lakers fans. And my heart goes out to everyone that actually, that A, personally knew Kobe, his wife Vanessa, the remaining surviving three daughters, all of the young girls attending Mamba Academy, former teammates, guys like Shaquille O'Neal, Derek Fisher, Brian Shaw, Robert Ory, just all the folks I can think of. Rick Fox, who at one point, reports are saying he was on the helicopter, and especially Vanessa. I couldn't imagine, as at least from my perspective, being a husband. But I did want to just share my thoughts and reflect. It's been tough just starting out here because it's been a couple of days and it seems every day is a little bit tougher, to be honest with you. And it's like, how are we dealing with this with somebody that I didn't personally know, many of us didn't personally know. And I really do believe, and many folks my age have said this, Kobe really was the timeline of our life, of everything that we followed and whatnot. And I'm gonna get into my own personal feelings about this. There was no athlete that I hated more than Kobe Bryant for the longest time, and no athlete that I rooted against harder than Kobe Bryant. Number one, not even close. Not even close. And I talk a lot of football on this channel, specifically a lot of college football. My honestly, there's nowhere in college football I truly hate the way I hated Kobe. But obviously we have our rivalries as myself as a Texas fan, and but there's never been a player that can or a coach that can equate to the 20 years of just straight up battle and misery at times. Us being triumphant at times as a Spurs fan, but there's nothing in from a Cowboys perspective. As much as I talk about I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, that's football is more of a team thing, but the basketball thing made it individual because I was a Tim Duncan guy. The way so many of you guys out there are Kobe guys, Tim Duncan was my guy. And when I think of when I think back, it just, like I said, with the timeline, one of the interesting things is Kobe Bryant, he actually outdates the genesis of my fandom as a Spurs fan, if that makes sense. Because Kobe came into the league in 96. I didn't become a Spurs fan until Tim Duncan's rookie season in 97. So Kobe's initial entry into the league, I had started watching basketball around 94, 95. And my dad, it was like my dad and I, like that and boxing was our thing. And, my dad could not stand Michael Jordan. He always rooted for Karl Malone. My dad met Karl Malone in the 80s. My dad was a big Hakeem Olajuwon fan. Like I told you, Duncan was my guy. Hakeem Olajuwon was my dad's guy. And my dad always wanted Hakeem to be on top, but they never met up in the finals, Hakeem and Jordan. and he didn't want Jordan to get, when Jordan came back and went on three-peat. I remember my dad just always rooting for either Utah or Seattle. And for me, I was just amazed and wowed by Jordan. So when Kobe came into the league in 96, and the hype and just the energy and you could see the raw ability and really into that second season, I would say when he made the All-Star, coming off the bench as a sixth man, because they still had like Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel, and that was a really, really talented early Lakers team. I remember I liked Kobe initially. I really did. Even with the swagger and whatnot, just the young energy and I did like the fact that he was trying to model himself after Jordan. Now Tim eventually became my guy and where things set in and took a turn against Kobe for me was very simple. He became a champion. And it was at the expense of my San Antonio Spurs for 3 straight years. And it's crazy because Shaq was, yes, the most dominant player in the world. And Tim, I would say 99, Tim's sophomore year led his team to the championship against the Knicks and, had an argument for him, Shaq, maybe Karl Malone had an argument for best player in the league post Jordan. And then Shaq completely took over that conversation for the next 3 years. But I always hated Kobe more. I don't know what it was. And it wasn't because I felt like he was the best player at the time, but he always made the right play, the most timely play to rip your heart out. And I saw it repeatedly. And I remember that year, I think it was 01, where the 15-1 Lakers team, they only lost to Iverson in the finals, that game one when he stepped over Ty Lue. I remember, I believe they swept us viciously. And at the time, part of your fandom is the influence of your friends. At this time, I'm like middle school. I wasn't even in high school yet. I was in middle school, and everybody was was hard body Kobe at the time. And I'm growing up in Silver Spring, Maryland, as the lone San Antonio Spurs guy. And it was tough. It was tough. And so my hatred of him being young and immature and not appreciating and respecting greatness. So he was enemy number one for me forever. And then I go and meet one of my best friends in the entire world, Mr. Chris Diggs. And I hope to have him on to share, his thoughts and emotions because my brother's hurting right now. Chris Diggs, my little brother, and then my cousin Dylan English, who comes and stays with me for a whole summer. These 3 people are the biggest Kobe fans you will ever meet. I'm talking about my brother. These 3 people, I put up 4 fingers. These 3 people are the biggest Kobe fans you'll ever meet. My brother has nothing but Kobe's in his closet of any shoes that he actually goes and spends money on. Chris has been a Lakers fan for over 20 years, ever since I met him. My cousin Dylan, I think he was born a Lakers fan and a Kobe fan. He'll make it very clear. I'm a Kobe fan. My brother, part of me thinks he picked Kobe because I like Duncan so much and they were kind of going back and forth. But my brother, Kobe was his guy. And speaking with him yesterday after the passing and just going back and forth with him, it was tough, man. There's a phase in my life where I started to go from hating him to respecting him to ultimately loving him. So when the Lakers fell off and he went on his scoring run and didn't have the players, the coaching, blah, blah, blase, it wasn't the same as a Spurs fan. Yes, we were still winning. We were still competing for titles, but it didn't, that edge going after the Lakers, and that was when we kind of developed our time going after Dallas. Dallas was on the come up. Nash, Nowitzki, Michael Finley, they were tough. But even then, it wasn't like the Lakers. It was different. It was different. And it goes to show, one of the first lessons I'll say here that I've learned from Kobe is a sense of urgency in life. Because I was going to make, and I bullshit you not, I was going to make a video when I saw Kobe on the Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson podcast. I think it's a Showtime production. I'm not 100% sure. But I saw him on the podcast, and he was talking about He made a comment, and the video was going to be called "Kobe Bryant Finally Tells the Truth About the Spurs," and he made the statement and said, Shaq and I, people always say if we had, been on the same page, we would have run off 10 straight championships. And he's like, I always say, no, we won as many as we did because the Spurs were there, and the Spurs were really freaking good, and they stopped us. Every time we lost or didn't win, we were on the same page, at least heading into the playoffs. We just weren't better than them at the times they beat us, and we were better than them the times we beat them. And it was, to me, it was the ultimate tip of the hat of respect, because so many times I feel like the Spurs franchise has been a little bit devalued in the conversation of the great teams with the Lakers and even Golden State before Kevin Durant was injured, as one of the great NBA teams, and the Spurs did it over a span of 3 decades. And to get that ultimate level of respect from Kobe was unbelievable to me as a Spurs fan. But I first started to respect Kobe when I saw the brother fighting so hard, and even then, again, it just goes to your perspective as a fan and why we love sports and how we evolve and grow as adults, as human beings, and we learn to appreciate things so much more the more life we live. And I remember, and I went back and watched this documentary. For those who are not familiar, Kobe Doing Work. It was a Spike Lee produced documentary, and it was shown on ESPN, and it was a day in the life of Kobe Bryant, an NBA day in the life. It was during the 2008 season when they fell short to the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, and the game they chose to film for that documentary on that day was against the San Antonio Spurs. And if you go back and watch that documentary, you'll learn so much basketball from Kobe. B, the amount of respect throughout the documentary that he had for my Spurs. And I was like, you know what, man, my eyes weren't open then he was telling us then, like, a great rival, a great enemy, the most respectful thing you can get from them is how much they love competing against you. How he said, I know in order to beat these guys, we're going to have to execute at our best. And Kobe had that intensity that he tried to share with all these brothers in the league, whether it was passing it off to LeBron or Kyrie, Jason Tatum. I used to joke and say Kobe had like a little cult of these young guys, but seeing his relationship with the girls, and it breaks my heart for Gigi and the other young lady, Payton and Alyssa, who lost their lives in the helicopter accident with him. He was pouring into all these athletes. You've seen so many people come out the woodwork over the last few days that not only have a story about Kobe, but notice the common thing. He sent me a message. He spent 30 minutes talking to me, investing time into people. Anytime you saw an interview, you saw the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, and how in the intensity that he had on the basketball court was the intensity that he shared with his family. It was the intensity that he had with his creative crafts. Whenever you go and leave basketball and transition and win an Oscar off the court, you're an incredible human being. And we get so caught up, and myself, I'm guilty of this. We get so caught up with the comparison game. And when we do the comparison game of who's the GOAT and all that, we automatically reduce people who we either think this guy shouldn't be ahead of this guy. And I think while all these guys are still alive, especially some of the people that before, like Larry Bird's still alive, Magic Johnson's still alive, Michael Jordan's still alive, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's still alive, Bill Russell's still alive. I think we have to move to a point of just appreciation. I have to do that with LeBron. I have to do that with Kevin Durant and all the current players now. And just, we still levy our opinions, good, bad, and indifferent as fans. But in terms of the debate stuff, everything right now, it's just got me numb. It's so difficult, even on this camera, just talking about it because it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it's hit me. I feel as though I feel as though we don't even we were on the cusp of seeing the potential his daughter had. Breaks my heart. And I'm not a father. I'm not a parent. I hope to be one day. I pray that the Most High blesses me with a family and the love and the care that Kobe was able to share with his daughters. And you see Ellie Duncan's piece today on ESPN about the girl dad, her story, and it's so powerful how he again embraced that aspect. But he will be missed. I became such a big Kobe fan and fell in love with things he was doing post basketball, even in the end of his career. I didn't like seeing him suffer all over the court, and he was like a grumpy old man at times, but the joy he had for the game is infectious, the appreciation that he had. And when you see the level of respect that he had from his peers and from the elders of the game, Jerry West was a guy who went and traded for Kobe Bryant when he was an executive with the Los Angeles Lakers and made that trade with the Charlotte Hornets. And to hear Jerry West talk about him being almost a surrogate father to Kobe and driving him around LA when he first got there, it's just unbelievable stuff. It's really, like I said, it's reminding me why I love sports, but I'm also numb right now. Like, we have a Super Bowl this week. I had so many things planned to record, recruiting content and all that, and I'll get back to it and I'll power through it because that's Mamba mentality, right? But right now, I really, especially after losing my aunt in 2018, I'm learning that grief sometimes just requires that patience and to be there. And some days I'm going to have it and talk, and some days I'm not. And it's okay to feel like Chris and my brother. I talked to my brother on the phone. They really feel like they lost a family member, and I feel my pain is twofold. I feel like I've lost like my greatest rival, my greatest adversary, and somebody who I deeply, deeply respected and learned to fall in love with. But I also hurt for the guys like my buddy Chris, like Brian, who I don't ever want to see them hurt. And I know they would feel the same way for me if this was Timmy, and for some people it's Ginobili is their guy. Everybody has that guy. You know exactly what I'm talking about, or gal. But those folks that you idolize, you look up to, their role models, and you track your life. When I think of years, and that's why I'm such a sports nut, when I think of years, I don't necessarily think of the year, I always think of the moment, and it tells me where I was in life. When I see the Rose Bowl game with Texas USC, I know exactly where I was, and I was a senior in high school. And I can track off of those events. It's weird. I know exactly. Chris can tell you when the Lakers beat Boston in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The Lakers beat Boston Game 7, and how the joy, the excitement, and the love and the appreciation that Chris had that night. I'll never forget that. And a lot of you sports heads will know exactly what I'm talking about. I have a slideshow running here just with some of the victims, and as well as Kobe. And I actually, and as a basketball nut, it's funny. I go on YouTube and I love basketball, and I love the history of the game of all sport, football, college football, basketball. I love the like how players got to where they got and their journeys. And it was 3 weeks ago. I went and checked my YouTube history. It was 3 weeks ago. I went and watched the Lower Merion state championship game. I believe it was 1995 or 1996. was a very low scoring game, very, very sloppy, but Kobe was just so brilliant at such a young age, so much charisma, and just controlled the court, by all means, and on his way to a McDonald's All-American appearance. And it's just like, wow. My whole, for so many of us, my brother, who's younger, his whole timeline, he only knows Kobe. He wasn't old enough to watch Jordan. And so when my brother finally joined my dad and I, the Lakers were beginning their three-peat. So, seeing Shaq, I couldn't even make it through the TNT special they were doing, and understanding the relationship. Just looking at the slideshow, Olympic Kobe, seeing Carmelo speak after the Portland game the other night, and also seeing and remembering, all the time he spent with these guys in the Olympic setting. He went in at Western Conference Finals against Kobe. So it's tough. It's so very tough. And I want to have some more folks on, Kobe fans, just to again show our respect and pay our appreciation, because right now football and everything else is kind of numb to me. Like I said, I'll muscle through the content, but just know I'm not all the way here, and I know many of you watching. But I think as a sports community, and this is the last thing I'll say, the way Kobe was with these young ladies, the way he handled himself after certain mistakes and things that happened off the court, and he got better and better, not only as a basketball player, but as a man, an example of the type of father I hope to be one day. And he made it okay. He made it cool to be obsessed with your dreams and your goals, and to be relentless about it and be unapologetic about it. And I'll never forget that. And just seeing these smiles, it just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. But listen to everybody. Continue. I even went back and listened to a radio show. I grew up listening to JT the Brick, because they were out in the West Coast, and so many of these Lakers games would end, and it was time for me to go to bed, and I would turn on the radio in my room and listen to JT the Brick and Tom Looney. And I heard Tom Looney on there, and they haven't worked together in many years. And Tom Looney was on the night of Kobe's passing, and shared a personal anecdote about, and he was such a big Kobe fan, for anybody that's ever listened to that show. And I think his granddaughter or goddaughter or granddaughter, one of the two, middle name is Kobe. Just that's how beloved. I mean, when you think of the folks that have gone too soon and gone abruptly like this, whether it's this is on the level of a Princess Diana or John Lennon. And I wasn't around for the John Lennon, but I was around it to kind of feel the gravity of a Princess Diana. And I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about like folks we lost, drug overdose or anything, like, where they were hurting themselves, so to speak, but just these tragic freak of accident situations. So very, very sad. And my prayers and are with all these with all the families, the Altobelli family, Christina, Mauser, young lady Payton and her mother Sarah Chester, the pilot Zobayan, Kobe, as well as Gigi, gone too soon. And we hopefully we can all, through collective energy, give all their families, spouses, especially Vanessa, the strength to navigate the rest of this life that they have and the rest of the time they have. Sense of urgency for a time. I think that's one of my big takeaways from what is the gospel of Mamba mentality. So rest in peace, Kobe Bean Bryant. I can't believe I'm saying that. And and it hits different when you see the birth year and the year of death. It hits different. So curious to hear, anybody's comments. And I'm sorry if it wasn't more upbeat, but this was really, really difficult to do. But these are just my personal thoughts. And tell somebody you love them. Tell somebody you love them. Love you guys, and we'll be back later. Peace.